Cool. All right, here with Taylor Thomas, NAIA ball, and then Brian Michalak, head coach at St. Francis and our ABCA NAIA committee chair. Thanks for jumping on with me, you two. You know,
Thank you.
last year, Shreveport, besides maybe IU football, maybe the one of the greatest sports stories in history, besides what IU football just did, and also broke up back-to-back years of West Coast teams winning the national championship. So, Taylor, diving in, does Shreveport have a chance with what they got coming back?
I think when you're led by a coach like Brad Neffendorf, you always have a chance. I mean, we've kind of seen it at this level for a while. Shreveport, kind of like your Gwinnett's and Southeasterns and Taylor out of Indiana and Cumberland's out of Kentucky with Brad Shelton. You kind of expect those teams to be fighting for that spot in Lewiston, if not in Lewiston, every single year now. And what Brad did, obviously, last year is unprecedented at any level, especially at the NAIA level. I mean, we talk about it all the time now because we covered it day in and day out last year, so we kind of somewhat got used to it, if you will. But just looking back now after what they accomplished, it really is unprecedented stuff. And I mean, when you look at the rotation, you had another number two arm sign a UDFA deal to the Pittsburgh Pirates and Draven Ziegler, who's, at 95, 96, up to 97 with a really good mix of off-speed stuff. And that guy's an ace on any other NAI staff in the country, if not at any other level of college baseball. But much like Shreveport, it's going to be a very, very interesting year to monitor week in and week out because a lot of guys on that Shreveport team graduated. Brad graduated quite a bit of production. They returned, I think three arms from that who were back in bullpen arms who were really, really good for him. But what Brad did and what he's been able to do as far as recruiting goes, they're always going to have a shot. And it would not shock me one bit to see them back in Lewiston for a second straight year.
And they've always been transfer heavy there, correct?
Yeah, he's had a pretty good mix. I mean, a lot of guys asked me last year, wow, are these guys just D1 kickbacks with winning a bunch of games? And it really wasn't the case. I want to say they had three on the roster. One was their center fielder. I'm blanking on the other two, but it was more so JUCO guys from that region. You had JUCO guys from Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, which, as we all know on this call, that region is just unprecedented with talent. You mentioned JUCO level teams like Pearl River, LSU Eunice right there in the home state. That region is loaded with talent. And Brad's been able to do a great job of getting those JUCO kids, especially last year, to all buy in. He talked about it all the time on every interview he's been on. It truly was like a total 100% buy-in from the first day of the fall, really. And you saw that throughout the year. We got to see him at the Cajun Collision, which is the tournament that we help host down in Sterling, Louisiana with LSU Shreveport. And you could tell that the talent was there. Now, if you had asked me back in February if they were going to go undefeated, I would have told you absolutely not. But it's unprecedented stuff. And he's one of the better coaches at this level for a reason. And the way he's able to consistently recruit and get guys to buy into what he wants for his culture, it's really special to see. And it kind of showed up on the field last year.
Brian, over the last 4 or 5 years, has your recruiting had to change? I mean, you and I spent a lot of time on the road together up in Chicago watching games. Have you had to adjust your recruiting as much?
I think everybody has. I mean, with the culture, the way college sports are now at all levels, it's just, the transfer portal, even before the portal, more guys were transferring in all sports at all levels. So I think we are, like most schools, we're a little bit more getting more transfers than maybe we had 15, 20 years ago. So, and you know what, guys, if I could jump in real quick and just, what LSU Shreveport did last year, you think of the great teams that there have been in the history of baseball at all levels. And, there wasn't just, a ground ball that maybe got a bad hop or just, a windblown homer somehow, some way. And that's never been done before. With Brad, when in his staff and his players, his team did last year, that's that may never be done again.
We almost had two because SUNY Niagara went
Yeah,
into the
yeah.
Division III Junior College World Series undefeated.
Yeah.
They got beat,
Yeah.
but like they had a legitimate chance with their team. They had some really good arms. I was at that World Series. They had some really
Yeah.
good arms and good position players, but obviously you got to bear with Gloucester there. Gloucester just seems like they win the D3 JUCO every year now, but
Yeah.
Gloucester came in there and handled
Yeah.
business up in New York, and it was cold. That I'm glad it's coming back to Tennessee because it was like 35 degrees when I got off the flight in New York last year. So it was more spring Midwest weather than it
Yeah.
was championship weather. And Brian, talk a little bit about the convention. You're in those small meetings with us, and you brought up some great insights and points. What's going on with NAIA baseball right now?
Well, first of all, what we're doing next year with our postseason, I think that's pretty big. We are changing the postseason format. Currently, we have the 10 opening round sites. We have 46 teams get into the postseason, and 10 go to Lewiston to our World Series. We're changing that next year. We're actually increasing the number to 48. Not this spring, the spring of 27. We'll increase to 48 teams making the postseason opening rounds. There'll be 8 opening round sites, all with 6 teams, and then 8 teams will go to Lewiston for the World Series. So in our bracket out at the World Series, we'll kind of mirror the Division I bracket where, basically it's 2 4-team brackets. You play down to one winner in each bracket, and then the 2 winners play a best of 3 series.
It's better for the field out there too.
Yes.
And you probably
I think
is that going to be those 8 sites? Teams going to bid for those with those 8 sites?
they will bid for those. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So probably in a geographic area, maybe or maybe not as much.
Well, it's usually south heavy, but there are some Midwest, some considered northern sites, and where teams are sent. There's geography is involved, cost is involved, and first and foremost though is seeding teams. That's the number one criteria.
So Taylor, going through, and I know NAI did their preseason poll November. How similar is to your guys' preseason poll to what the coaches put out for the NAI?
Especially for this year, like kind of what I alluded to earlier, there's been a lot of roster turnover, so we're still getting our questionnaires back. We'll probably release that here in about a week. I remember last year on this interview, Robbie kind of said the same thing. I'd say it's going to be fairly chalk to what the league is written out, obviously, because we haven't seen a bunch of these teams play yet. But as far as preseason top 25 goes, I would say it's going to be pretty similar. I mean, when you guys look at the World Series last year, you had a team like Grandview out of Iowa make it through that Upland bracket, and they're going to be another talented bunch under Doug Brinker as well. Same goes for Chris Pritchett up at UBC. UBC went to the World Series, had to actually, you guys were talking about the opening round sites. We had to follow that UBC team all across the country, really, which is kind of like what Southern Illinois football did at the FCS level. UBC went all the way to Hattiesburg, Mississippi from Vancouver, won that opening round side. I think Chris told me that was about a 2,500-mile trip. But as far as top to bottom goes in the top 25, I think a lot of these teams really proved themselves last year. And these are a bunch of teams that you look at year in and year out to consistently be in this top 25 poll. I thought the league did a great job for what is returning and a bunch of newcomers at this level too. Like Brian mentioned, these last couple of years, we've seen a lot of transfers come from multiple levels of college baseball as everything kind of changes as far as eligibility goes. We can talk about that for hours and hours if we want to as well. But even when you look at the league poll, Central Methodist right there with Nate Breland at that 25 slot. I wouldn't say that Nate wanted the the result for last year. Obviously, they still get to an opening round and competing for a spot in Lewiston. But when you look at the league poll too, you got blue bloods like Faulkner, Kansas Wesleyan, and what Bill Nilley has done as well. St. Thomas down in Florida and IU Southeast. It's going to be very interesting to monitor how our poll changes, but how the league poll changes throughout the year. As you guys kind of get the hint here, I think it's going to be a pretty wild year to cover, no doubt about it.
Brian, did you get a chance to listen to Paul's speech on Gordy at the convention?
I did not. I did not.
Shout out Paul. He did a good job. It probably tweaked the title because it was a lot about Gordy, but it is more about transformational coaching than anything. And Paul, shout out to Paul. He did a great job. His energy levels is infection. So I would go back and watch that talk. Anybody who doesn't know Gordy, it's funny with the newer generation of coaches, they probably don't know Gordy at all or who Gordy was. If you want to talk a little bit about Gordy, go ahead.
Well, yeah, that's right. The younger guys probably don't know him. They probably don't know some of the other names, Woody Hunt and just, yeah. I mean, you could go on and on, but, Coach Gillespie, I was fortunate that I played for him here at St. Francis. And, you talk about Paul's enthusiasm in that, I think you get that you could be around Coach Gillespie and not pick up on that and absorb some of that and be that way. I mean, real quick, Coach Gillespie always taught class. He would teach coaching psychology, coach baseball theory, coach football theory, or taught football theory. And they were always 8 a.m. classes. And he insisted on that. And his enthusiasm at 8 a.m., surpassed anything that the students brought usually. He was a great teacher. And in the classroom, on the baseball field, football field, basketball court. I mean, coached all 3 sports. There was a time he was athletic director, coaching 3 sports and still teaching classes. So, I mean, I know Paul did a good job, and that was the enthusiasm every day and everything we did, or everything he did.
Taylor, what about early here? What do we got? What are some key matchups here? First couple weekends to pay attention to.
So after last year, everyone's going to pay attention to each time Brad and LSU Shreveport play, and they actually have a loaded non-conference slate. The Red River is a pretty talented league from top to bottom when you look at Texas A&M Victoria and kind of what they did last year with their rotation and coach staff. And Chase Brewster now is over at Texas A&M, Texarkana. They were a much improved team last year, but Shreveport actually opens up with one of the tougher non-conference schedules I've seen in quite some time. They open up at Mark Stanford and Tabor here this weekend. As we talked about, weather's kind of moving everything around, so we actually get opening day a day early here on Thursday, the 22nd. So I'm really interested to see that one. The KCAC as a whole, we actually just finished up with their media day, and I was interviewing a bunch of those coaches, and a lot of those coaches in that league want to challenge their groups. And Mark's a legend in the game of college baseball, as everyone knows. He's the all-time home run king at Wichita State under Gene Stevenson, and it's kind of bled over to his Tabor program with how long he's been there and how much success he's had as well. That's the main one I have highlighted, because I want to see what Shreveport can do against a really talented offense. That's going to be down in Louisiana. As we all know, that's an extremely tough place to play. But when you have 2 blue blood programs going up against each other early on, that is something as a member of the media that we really much look forward to, and I can't wait to see it here. It's crazy to think that the season starts in 2 days, but I'm super excited for it.
Ryan, what about you guys? Where you open up early?
We open up second weekend in February. We're headed to Cumberland University, and so we'll play a 4-game set down there. Each weekend in February, the second, third, and fourth weekends, we're traveling to Tennessee, Tennessee Southern, Freed-Hardman, and playing 3 or 4 games. Those trips have always been good for us.
Taylor, we got any teams that haven't made it here recently that have a chance to go to Lewiston and play?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's pretty wide open this year as far as who who are the preseason favorites. Last year, we kind of had an idea, as I mentioned too. When you think of teams like LSU Shreveport, Billy Berry, and Tennessee Wesleyan, Taylor out of Indiana, those teams will always come to mind. Cumberland, Tennessee, even. But I truly believe that there's going to be a lot of surprises this year. Bill Neal over at Kansas Wesleyan got his group to Lewiston a couple years ago. He's actually the last team to beat LSU Shreveport as they took him down in that 2024 opening round. But even looking at last year, I don't think anyone, as far as Grandview goes, Grandview made it for, I think, the first time since the 90s or the 80s. But going into that Upland opening round is super tough as with a team like Taylor and what Kyle Gold has. But they still made it through and had to beat Kansas Wesleyan twice, actually. So I really think you could see a lot of surprises. UBC made it for their first time ever. They still return quite a bit as far as the pitching side goes. I'm really curious to see how they play out in the Cascade Conference with LC State. And that's another topic we haven't touched on yet. LC State's missed it for the last 2 years. And if you had asked me that as a player, I never would have thought that would happen. But Coach Jeremiah Robbins is back. He was a longtime coach at LC, won a few national championships. I think him being back is going to really, really make a difference. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised to see LC State back in Lewiston again, which is, like I said, it's just weird to even think about that they weren't. But a team like Wayland Baptist out of the Sooner, I played in the Sooner Athletic Conference. Todd Welton had his group go up to the Lewiston opening round last year and knock them out, actually. HIU is going to return quite a bit. They returned 3 preseason All-Americans and Colby Moran, David Shackelford, and Josh Landry. They were led by a guy named Trey Seeley, who got drafted by the Giants last year. But still, Mahoney has done a great job recruiting based out of California. They're right there in Fullerton. I expect kind of those heavy hitters to be competing yet again, but it wouldn't shock me if I look up here in May and we see 3 to 4 teams that haven't been there ever in quite some time make that trip.
Do you have any preseason player, preseason pitcher of the year?
Yeah, so it's actually, we just finished up our preseason all NAIA ball team. Like I said, there's been a lot of turnover, not only in every single league, but across the country. We were looking at returners that are on this list, and if you make an all NAIA ball team the previous year, you're automatically on it for the next year if you return. A guy I really, really was excited to watch last year was Colton Reynolds out of Tennessee Wesleyan. He actually spent the fall of 24 at the University of Arkansas, ended up transferring over to Tennessee Wesleyan. Billy Berry returns him as well, and that team's always going to be able to slug. They graduated quite a bit. Guys like Daniel Stewart, who was a 440 hitter. But Colton Reynolds is definitely going to power that lineup there for Tennessee Wesleyan. I'm really excited to see him play. I just mentioned him, but David Shackelford is back at Hope International. That's a guy that is going to be around the top of the leaderboards as far as the hitting statistics goes. And another guy that me and Robbie both love, because Robbie's obviously based out of McAllen, Texas, and he gets to see this guy compete a lot more than we do. And it's Jack Kaliski at Our Lady of the Lake. He's a preseason All-American as well, and that guy can really, really get after it with the bat. And I'm really, really excited to see him play. But if I had to pick right now, I'd probably go Colton Reynolds out of Tennessee Wesleyan. As far as the pitching side goes, like I said, Shreveport had an historic rotation. But a guy like John Jones, who's also in the Red River Athletic Conference at Texas A&M Victoria, he returns from that elite staff last year. Colby Reynolds and Josh Johnson with Coach Dave Serrano. And then obviously Josh Landry, who I mentioned as well, a returning All-American. I think those are 3 guys on the pitching side that are going to be at the top of the leaderboards.
Brian, what's to say about NAIA coaching and the coaching at the level is you have 2 years in a row, Adrian Dinkle takes a job with the Yankees, and now you got Jeremy Sheener taking a job with the Nats. I mean, I think it speaks volumes of the coaches that we have at the NAIA level.
Yes, absolutely. I think there are really some great coaches. There have been for a long time, and there are now. And you're right, like Adrian Sheets, the 2 of them going to pro ball. That's they're not hiring guys just because they're buddies or they're doing anybody favors. I mean, both of them, just what they did with their programs. Why wouldn't you hire them? Maybe we should. Why weren't they hired sooner with what they had done?
Yeah.
So,
And Adrian's now at the Division I level, took a job at BYU. I think Adrian's now at BYU.
yeah,
So shout out to all those guys. It's good. It's just good. I mean, obviously, I think, but you mentioned some of the names that we've had, Woody Hunt, Gordon, like guys have carved out a really good career staying at the NAIA level too for years
yeah,
and years and years, which we probably won't see it as much anymore from a
yeah.
longevity standpoint of coaching. I would like to think, every time I go on these previews, I'm pulling for the guys that can carve out an entire career at places. It's really hard to do now, but I just think we still have some really cool storylines of coaches that have gotten a place, been there, and been there forever.
I think that's true, and you're right. I think that's true everywhere. Longevity just is not. There's more mobility in our whole society. More mobility in our society, and that's kind of reflected. But it is nice to see guys that have been for a while at a place and have had good careers and that. That's nice to see also. And it's also nice to see guys move up and get the recognition that they deserve and advance their careers too.
All right, Taylor, all the sports writers have to go out on the limb here. And who are your last two playing for the national championship? We won't hold you to any of it, but it's a good question to ask. It's fun.
Well, it's okay because, like I said, I'm in year 3 now of NAIA ball. By the way, thanks to Robbie for bringing me on.
Shout out to Robbie.
Super blessed to do what I do as well. It's really nice to be able to stay in the game in some capacity. But much like Robbie, whatever I say on this recording is going to get me a bunch of hate mail. So as Robbie would say, direct all your hate.
You got to follow Kendall
Garner.
Rogers' lead from Division I. He takes more bullets than anybody. So,
well, I'm not married, but if I did, I would have a hat like his wife does that says my wife hates your team for sure. Exactly. But no, honestly, it's hard not to pick against Tennessee Wesleyan. I do think that we see them competing for a national championship. We see them in the World Series, year in and year out. I think with a coach like Brad Neffendorf, I'm not going to say that he probably wouldn't want me to say that they're going to be competing for a national title, but I really have a lot of faith in how he manages that program year in and year out. We mentioned the roster turnover that they had as well. But I think Brad is going to be really, really motivated coming into this year to return back. And when you guys just mentioned Sheets leaving GGC, I still expect that program to be in Lewiston, and the success that they've had built under Sheets for quite some time now is really unprecedented as well. But when you retain some of those assistant guys that he has, I do think GGC is going to make it back. But I really like Gabe Grinder. Again, that game going back to the national championship, and I'm glad Brian mentioned the format change for next year, because as a member of the media, I would love 3-game series, and I'm super excited to see how that plays out. But even starting out in the national championship, the score was 13-7. So you look at the box score, you think, okay, LSU Shreveport dominated yet again, but Southeastern jumped on them on a 4-0 lead early, and we were kind of sitting there watching the game like, all right, well, here we go. Gabe Grinder's there now. Dinkle's gone, but Grinder had a tremendous amount of success over at Ottawa and Kansas and building that program up to new heights. And now that he's at Southeastern, you kind of saw how his culture reflected over, even though there had some returners from the Dinkle era. Grinder's been a hell of a recruiter no matter where he's been. It wouldn't shock me to see them back and competing for a national championship. So if I had to go out on the limb right now, I'm probably going to go Tennessee Wesleyan and Southeastern, which I know, shocker, 2 blue bloods. You hate this guy probably, but when you look at those 2 coaches and what they've done at this level, it's really hard not to see them making the return trip to Lewiston and ultimately competing in that final game.
Cool. All right, before I let you two go, any shout-outs, Brian, or anything else you want to touch on before I let you go, and then we'll finish up with you, Taylor?
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. Appreciate everything that you do, Ryan, for college baseball. Taylor, also for you guys. You talk about, NAIA baseball, and you get people talking about NAIA baseball, even though sometimes you guys got to take the bullets. People are talking about it, and being informed, and that's big for our game. So thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead, Taylor.
Yeah, we appreciate that, Brian, for sure. Like I said, I'm a bit of a younger guy. I'm 27, but I played in the Sooner Athletic Conference against guys like Mike Ross, Denny Craybaugh, God rest his soul as well. But seeing that, and I tell the story all the time. The school I went to, Southwestern Christian, was in the exact same town as my high school. I didn't know about it until my senior year of high school. So that kind of is par for the course as far as the NAIA goes. But now that I'm in my third year as a member of the media, every time I tell someone about NAIA baseball, every time they hear something about it and they go out and watch a game or send a kid there, send a coach there, it's truly eye-opening. And that's kind of what we do it for. You guys know, obviously, this levels really is the nation's best kept secret. And to be a part of something that Cody Butler obviously started back in 2017 and now what Robbie's been able to carry on his legacy for and being able to be a part of it with guys like Connor and Tyler Norris. It's a blessing every day that we get to do it. This is the best time of year for us, as we all know. The season gets underway, so I appreciate those kind words, and it's always nice to hear that your work is appreciated for sure. We're happy and blessed to do it.
Yeah, and I love following it. I've become a huge NAIA fan since I've taken the job here at the ABCA. Shout out to all the NAIA coaches and programs. You guys do a great job, and hopefully I can get back out to Lewiston this year. So thank you, too, for jumping on with me. This is awesome. It's always fun for me. Gets my juices going for the season.
Thank you, Ryan.